Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to Mr. Lippman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Larry Lippman. I'm the CEO of Alliance Financial Network, and I'm the head of Treasury and Cash Management of Americanics. My company is working with many states and countries on this exact challenge that we're here to talk about today. Last week, I was in Barbados discussing this very same topic, not on cannabis, but on black market of cash disappearing. Earlier the week before, I was in Puerto Rico, same discussion. It's the same topic, bank-challenged industries. One of California's largest industries and its tens of thousands of citizens who work in it are being restricted from the integration with the California financial and tax systems that are currently in existence. It's essential that California is fully prepared so that the revenue shrink is minimized, payroll is safer and more honestly handled, and California is underserved or better engaged and its citizens are protected. It's the same topic I've had in 9 states in the United States, Canada, the Caribbean, and I've been invited to some other countries that I'll be participating in the same exact conversation. California collects over $44 million in revenue currently, and imagine what that number would be in a more regulated and verifiable system of collection. The cost to collect, receipt, and audit can be minimized if managed within a state operating system. Alliance Financial Network is a standalone non-bank financial institution licensed as an MSB under the FinCEN and can do the same within your own state. AFN, as we like to call it, is an inclusive company and can include any bank or credit union, as well as others in the business of providing services to consumers and businesses. We are an alliance of many different companies that are compliant within the financial sector, forming a network to include services not generally available to legal bank-choked industries and unbanked, underbanked consumers, as well as those simply not banked. Our systems are built on proven technology, operating now in California and elsewhere for well over a decade, moving tens of millions of dollars and more every day in a very safe and compliant manner through many of your existing industries. Recently, about a year ago, I decided that something needed to happen in this industry, not from an arrogant standpoint that I was going to solve the problem, but I already had the tools. The Cole Memorandum was in place, and I met a little girl who had epilepsy and some other issues and watched the tincture of the oil under her tongue settle her down, and it was at that point that I decided that I was going to move into the cannabis industry from the other industries that we're in. So in regards to the cannabis industry, financial institutions, banks, and credit unions are required to meet stringent compliance requirements of the Fed centered on money laundering and BSA. We follow those exact same regulations. Finally, marijuana-related business account holders ask why they lose so many financial institution accounts throughout the year. I live in Denver, what everybody has called Ground Zero recently, and I have taken a particular interest in that, and I'm going to go over just a couple reasons of what we found that may be of interest to you. In a cross-section of interviews across the United States of marijuana-related businesses, we have been told 3 to 7 or more financial institution changes in a 12-month period. Some in Colorado are known to have changed their banking relationship, as stated 6 times, not on their own. While this is extremely business disruptive, the reasons were top 8, I'm just going to give you the top 4. Business was reviewed or inspected and determined they shadow banked. Somebody in the previous panel talked about using a different name. That's fraud, KYC, it's illegal. On their KYC, they stated they were something other than what they actually were, listing as a holding company or some other entity to mislead the financial institution. Businesses misstated on their KYC as a company in another industry, a flower shop or an herb store. Financial institution exceeded their market concentration level and needed to shed accounts, and financial institution ratios were too high. They brought a lot of money and they had no places to loan the money in relation to the amount they were bringing in. So we came up with a derivative of our existing platform. It's a global payment gateway, what some people might call an e-wallet, specializing in under, and non-bank consumers and legal businesses. Some called it an integration of a reloadable card, like a Starbucks card that you might be familiar with, a digital e-wallet, like a Google or an Apple wallet, and an integration with point of sale. We have a special program, point of sale, with a C to CPA, full end-to-end, to track all the product all the way through. As a complete end-to-end platform, the company's electronic exchange portal allows everyone access to payments and provides states and countries with an exact revenue calculation and collection based on the state at the point of sale. So there's no way for any cash business to underreport, misappropriate, or not report. In the state of Colorado last month, it was reported there was $996 million in revenue, and there was about a 25% shrink, just on a guess, of how much revenue was not reported that should have been. My last part of this, for marijuana-related businesses, our reloadable e-wallet technology for states, businesses, and consumers is built on proven technology and regulatory processes brought over from use in dozens of other industries, including ones that you know of: grocery, convenience stores, hospitality, auto, pawn shops, gentlemen's clubs, other high, heavy cash industries. In our wholesale division, which is the Americanics AcePay, we work with wholesale buyers and sellers to ensure that the money moves properly, electronically, as Mr. Wood had mentioned, and we actually eliminate the cash. Final piece of this is we agree with Senate Bill 1326 on virtual currency. We think it should be regulated, and companies that have virtual currency companies that's sitting on the Senate floor, we think that that's a good idea. We'd be compliant with that and plan on registering as a MSB within your state.
Mr. Lippman, thank you. Mr. Ott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. I know that we're short on time, so I'll try to keep this quick. I'm the founder and CEO of Guardian Data Systems, founded in Los Angeles, California in 2008. We're the longest-running financial services company that was formed specifically to serve the cannabis industry. I also serve on the board of directors for the National Cannabis Industry Association, and I am a former banker with National Bank of California in Los Angeles, where I helped on the commercial side as well as managed their merchant services divisions for all branches. So I've been asked to testify here today in order to assist in the identification and potential implementation of an alternative solution to traditional banking. I believe that in order to truly be effective, a successful solution must include some sort of secure cash transport and vaulting, ACH, a kiosk, credit or debit cards, or a closed-loop solution. I also believe this venture to be impossible without the involvement of a financial institution. We need to get behind our state banks and credit unions. Any implementation of legislation intended to exclude state banks from direct participation in the cannabis industry does absolutely nothing to protect businesses operating legitimately under state law. In fact, any alternative solution would require its own method of regulation, adding yet another layer of difficulty to an industry begging for credibility and transparency. Now, the FinCEN guidance does clarify how financial institutions can provide services to cannabis-related businesses consistent with their Bank Secrecy Act obligations. The guidance has been provided to enhance the availability of financial services for and the financial transparency of cannabis-related businesses, while also mitigating the dangers associated with conducting an all-cash business. The genie's out of the bottle here. The FinCEN guidance is in place. It has been accepted by the Department of Justice. Now it's simply up to the state of California to provide protections and possibly incentives for California financial institutions that do have an interest in serving the cannabis industry. It's also in the interest of banks to adopt cannabis banking standards because whether they realize it or not, they have cannabis clients today. Now, ultimately, the solution may very well come from banks and their clients working within the cannabis industry today. Careful collaboration and open communication between cannabis-related businesses and the banks that serve them will result in modified BSA and AML, Bank Secrecy Act, and anti-money laundering programs that add detailed oversight and reporting. Congress needs to see effective cannabis compliance and cash management solutions developed from within the private sector in order to eventually act. This compliance program may very well be the catalyst for the implementation of legislation around the solutions that are materializing from within the industry today. I would like to touch on Speaker Hadley's question in reference to other states that were working on marijuana law reform. I flew in from Portland, Oregon this morning. Some of the content here, it was sourced from The Guardian from February 26th. The Oregon Senate did pass a landmark cannabis banking bill last Friday. It exempts banks and credit unions from any state liability for conducting financial services with state-regulated cannabis businesses. The emergency bill passed in the Senate 18-6 on February and in the House and on February 16th. In the House, the House of Reps 56-3. Now, besides holding harmless those financial institutions that do business with the legal cannabis industry, the bill also allows the Oregon Liquor Control Commission and the Oregon Health Authority to provide financial institutions with confidential information on license and permit holders in the cannabis industry. The information would otherwise be exempt from public disclosure. The OLCC regulates adult use or recreational cannabis, while the Oregon Health Authority would oversee the medical program. This, of course, is a critical first step for any state interested in reducing risk while providing security for banks, credit unions, and the public. Now that the state agency has been tasked with the collection of cannabis tax revenue, the regulators, the state, and the industry are all in the same boat. This fact should send a clear message to Congress to accelerate their work on reforming banking laws at the federal level. Oregon Democrats Earl Blumenauer, Jeff Merkley, and Ron Wyden have been leading the way. Last year, they did introduce the Marijuana Businesses Access to Banking Act, which would allow legal marijuana businesses to access banking services. The legislation did find some support in the House, but has yet to receive any action in the Senate. I'd also like to make a few comments on some questions that did come up and some statements here. Fourth Corner Credit Union was found to be to have the specific intent to break federal law. There are no cannabis-specific banks. You will see no cannabis-specific banks. You've got to keep a healthy credit mix, a healthy volume mix in any bank that attempts to operate within the cannabis space. You've got to have traditional business as well as non-traditional business, MSBs, other businesses that we've heard here today. We've actually had the benefit of speaking with Christy Cornell Pape from the San Francisco FDIC office in discussions with a specific board of directors at from an out-of-state bank. Her comments were quite enlightening. She said, listen, the FinCEN guidance has been passed, your constituents have voted to legalize cannabis, and you have a responsibility as a local community bank to serve your local community. As long as you're filing your suspicious activity reports, there should be no fear of any civil money penalties to any of the shareholders here at the bank. We've also spoken with with former FDIC and California DFI members. David and I have both had the benefit of speaking to former IRS and FinCEN representatives as well. There are hundreds of banks across the U.S. in legal states that are supporting the industry today. They're doing it transparently. The problem, as we've heard earlier, is that there are several that are misrepresenting the true nature of the business because that's the only option that they have. This does absolutely nothing to help the industry continue to emerge and evolve. As far as prepaid cashless ATM, again, you're misrepresenting the true nature of the business. You're masking the use of the funds. This can be considered bank fraud, financial fraud, and even money laundering. There is no solution there at this point in time without a bank's involvement. And then again, to close here, to echo Commissioner Owen, ultimately we don't need reform of the banking laws. We do need cannabis to be removed from the schedule of federally controlled substances. When cannabis is no longer contraband, the many laws making the commerce in it felonious will no longer apply. State legislators must pass resolutions urging repeal of the Federal Controlled Substances Act. This would do more to address the problem of banking the proceeds from the sale of cannabis than enacting piecemeal exceptions to existing laws. Many resources have indeed been wasted in Colorado pursuing the mistaken strategy of seeking ways around or under the wall of the CSA. We have no cannabis banks, nor are we embarrassing the federal government or galvanizing it to action. The argument can be made that these proposals to evade consequences of the CSA instead of repealing it or at least removing cannabis from it serve only those who seek to stymie reform, and they are preventing progress against prohibition. Again, in closing, I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Ott. I know we have a question from my colleagues. Very quickly, I will ask Mr. Dindenberg, can you give a little bit more detail, explain the nature of your kiosks, how they work,
Sure.
and how widespread they are?
Sure.
I'm assuming that your kiosks are mostly in dispensaries right now, but it seemed like you touched on that you might have involvement at the agricultural point of distribution from
Sure.
the grower to the actual dispensary. So if you can touch on that too. And then just to follow up, Mr. Lippman, if you could also detail a little bit more about the services you're providing. And after that, we'll go to my colleague, Mr. Wood, for question.
Right. So our kiosks are a little unique in the fact that they're bidirectional. What that means is they run on our seed-to-sale software in addition to the kiosk software. So you have 100% inventory controls in our kiosks. It's pulling data from point of sale, from inventory. You know, if you're vertically integrated, it's incredible. If you're just a dispensary, it works perfect. And if you are a grower or distribution or transportation or manufacturing, it's holding that information as well. We have, you're going to have to, I'm going to use my hands for this, I apologize. We're in Colorado, we have a client, we sign a contract in Alaska, Oregon, Washington, California, Maryland. We're pretty much where there's
Yeah.
legal cannabis.
But in terms of just optics, if I go into a dispensary that has one of your kiosks,
Sure.
what does that presence look like? I mean, is it?
They come in different forms and shapes. So
Does it look like an ATM? Does it look
there
like
are ones that are, you know, probably 4 feet high that you walk in that go from the floor and 4 feet up, and the screen's encased in a box, and it has a vault inside, and that's where all the cash goes. And there's a bill acceptor on there. Ours also give change. You know, we can do it in other ways. There's some customers in Nevada. I'm sorry, I didn't mention Nevada. They didn't want to have a quote unquote bulky kiosk in their facilities, so we're doing countertop boxes for them, and you can also use an iPad. They're also very functional from a retail standpoint, where you know if you wanted to, if the store has the interest in it, you know their patients can use either the internet or a app on the phone and pre-order. Now they can't prepay necessarily, but they can pre-order and it speeds it up. At the end of the day, it's a retailer's dream, quite frankly. That's why movie theaters use it, right?
Yeah.
Because you can walk in, you can be by yourself. If you're familiar with the medicine that you so choose to get, you're ordering your own medicine. You can buy whatever the store sells, clothes, candles, doesn't matter. The whole inventory is right there. But you can use it by yourself, or you can have a salesperson in the store walk you through the process and educate you on the plants as well.
I guess so the kiosk, it seems like, is very functional in maybe reducing the need of staff in providing a secure place to deposit the cash at the point of sale, but it's not replacing the services a bank would provide. You're not figuring out the payroll taxes they need to pay. You're not providing payment to the BOE.
That's a very fair question. So does it replace the bank? The short answer is nothing that any of us are talking about here replaces a bank. Okay, we facilitate banking procedures and processes is what we all do. But to directly answer your question, public safety, you know, how many issues we want to talk about, right? Banking is a huge hurdle, and then the offshoot of the banking problem is the public safety issue. So yes, I personally believe that the kiosk helps in the public safety issue.
And who has who is in accessing the cash from, I mean, the owner of the dispensary then will have the access to pull the cash out of the vault, or is there a third party that comes and gets it?
Yeah, we have a third party cash pickup, collector. They have a key. It works just like it would work at an ATM in a convenience store.
And then where would the third party, I guess, take that cash to?
It depends what state you're talking about, but we either take it to the bank, to the Federal Reserve, or to the person's house or apartment or a storage facility. Wherever that cash needs to go, we take it to.
Thank you for your very forthright answers. Mr. Lippman, and then before we go to Mr. Wood, quickly, can you summarize a little bit more? You talked about the services you're providing in this area. Can you give a little bit more detail some of the services you're providing specifically here in California?
So think of our program as a gateway. On the gateway is a way for people to load their personal account or their business account. I'm just going to run you through how a consumer to a business and a business to a business transacts. Consumer would load their account either at a kiosk, by credit card, debit card, ACH from their bank account, and they are basically selling us their money at no cost in exchange for an insured credit on the system. So they now have a credit on our platform. They then will go into the dispensary and through their mobile unit or a telephone number as a unique identifier with a 4-digit PIN, they will put their phone under a reader. It will exchange the credit as a debit and credit the dispensary all electronically, so we've eliminated the cash from the transaction. The cash was sitting outside and it is in the kiosk, considered in our bank account. We work with Tier 1 banks primarily, but we're inclusive to any bank or credit union. It's our cash, so the banks have accepted this because it's all crediting and debiting on the back side, has nothing to do with the bank itself. Then each of the different businesses can pay each other within the licensed network. So if you're a licensed cannabis business, you would have an account, and they pay each other, debit, credit. They just go on the dashboard 24/7, put in an account number by rule of the Cole Memorandum, an invoice number for chain of custody. Then the dispensary wants to pay the lab. They pay each other debit, credit. Take the money out of the system. Oh, by the way, when there's a taxable event anywhere in the system, that would be an excise tax, inventory, anything that goes on, we catch that in the POS at the transaction in the system, hold that money for the BOE in a specific account, and we can move that electronically into the BOE, and then they can ACH or wire into their own bank account. So there's no more large groups of dollars. Now, we could still work in a smart safe or a program like David's with cash itself if you wanted to do both, but then we couldn't ensure that we're going to capture 100% audited and reconciled every minute all day long. Now, when the business would like to take the money out to pay a non-licensed organization like a attorney or somebody else, they would order an ACH by going online. We debit their account, take the money out of our master account at the bank that is insured and protected, and ACH or wire to the utility company, to the landlord, to whomever. Then no one's worried about marijuana-related business, MRBs, receiving money, which is why the banks have the problems. I know, Mr. Lab, that you're not touching the flower, but we don't know where that money came from the cultivator or from the dispensary. That's where the bigger issues are coming from. So you just eliminated all of that problem.
Thank you so much. Mr. Dinenberg, I believe you had one
yes,
quick
thank
follow-up,
you.
then we'll go to Mr. Wood.
Sorry, I just wanted to, I realized I didn't answer your question 100%, and I just want to go through it real quick. So our software comes with accounting software, to answer your question on that one. In addition to it, both our seed-to-sale software as well as the kiosk, either collectively or interchangeably, separately. We have web portals set up for government agencies, law enforcement, and anyone who actually wants access to it, where you can see in live time, real time, and I've talked to the BOE about this as well. You can be able to see every transaction, every second, every time you want to see it. You'll know exactly how much sales tax, how much income tax, and what the actual sale was, and who bought it, what the product was, how much it cost, and all the information that you guys would ever need is available in real time.
I appreciate it. That does answer it, and I do thank you for that. Mr. Wood.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm curious. It feels a little like it's more of a shifting of cash than it is a real solution, quite frankly, and that's my perception. So, you're moving this money in to you're tracking it, and that's great. You're being able to track it all of this. You're bringing it all in there. And then you're able to move it to vendors. You're able to move it around within that system. You've got now, it sounds like, at least from your perspective, you have a way to pay the utilities and things like that. But some of these businesses may need to move transactions fairly quickly. I mean, money comes in, money goes out. You got to wait for a check. Maybe that isn't necessarily convenient, or maybe there's a vendor that doesn't work that way. How does the person in the business themselves ultimately get the cash out? It's gone in, but how do they get the cash out? And then what do they do with it afterwards? Because now you don't. It doesn't. It just feels like you're just kind of moving the pieces of the puzzle around, but there doesn't feel like there's an end solution for the actual owner of the business.
Right. So, I'll go. Okay. So if we're talking California first, right? Obviously that's why we're here. It all starts with our state laws. I mean, fundamentally, that's where it all starts. So let's be honest with each other, which is until there are robust state laws in effect, we're not going to have any banking. I'm just being honest with you guys. I'd love to tell you a different story, but I'm telling you the truth. As a guy who spends every day talking to banks, trying to get banks to bank this industry, someone referred to it earlier. The last sentence of the Cole memo, the last sentence of the FinCEN memos, all talk about, this is a memo, not law, and we all have to abide by our state laws. And unfortunately, in California, we don't have great state laws. Therefore, our licensees can't really, there is no tracking system. We don't know I've heard the BOE admit they only believe they're only collecting 30% of the sales tax in the state. Therefore, you're in violation of the Cole memo. Therefore, how do you bank this state? You bank this state by having robust state laws. I promise you guys, give me robust state laws, I'll bring in banks. And then it's the trickle-down theory, which is after you have your banks, the clients get, the industry will get the banking services. In addition, what we found, Lance, and you can probably talk to this also, most banks in the country that are banking this industry, not one bank will ever solve this issue. Those banks don't take more than 50 accounts, and 50 is the high side. So you need you need banks. You need several hundred banks in this state to understand how they can bank it. And I know for a fact, even if I got not one client, I would still spend the time educating everybody, because really, honestly, the lack of education between the industry and the banking industry, right? The cannabis industry and the banking. It's not a one-way lack of education. It's a two-way street. I don't think the bankers understand the industry's issues, and I'm not sure the industry understands the banking issues. And we all have to get together, and we all can solve the problem. I know for a fact, we have clients, our program has been reviewed by the FDIC, not by itself, but through our banking relationships and our clients, right? So I know we have the infrastructure to provide banking services to the state of California. I'm just going to hang on the fact that I need robust state laws to get it done for you guys.
Thank you so much.
Would you like me to follow up? He asked me to.
Yeah, I'm curious. Sure.
Would you agree?
Thanks. Thank you,
try to
Mr.
keep it to
Chair.
1 minute. We do have another panel
thank
right
you,
after
Mr. Chair. I
this.
appreciate that.
So you're talking about shifting in a normal environment. When you deposit money into a bank, the money's available the next day. That's just how it works. It's not available right now. In our program, it's an accounting system. It's a very large wallet, journal entry, just like Google Wallet. And so it's immediately available. When you put the money into that kiosk, it's available right now. If you'd like to take the money out and go spend it somewhere else, we have a variety of ways to do that. We have a process where you can ACH it out into your bank account. Many people, about 30% of the people in California, are underbanked or not banked at all. For those people, they can create an e-check and go cash it at a bank. And we have an ATM card that will be connected to it pretty soon, because we're not involved in the discussion of cannabis. We're involved in the discussion of a reloadable card. That's a $1 trillion 2017 industry. It has nothing to do with cannabis. The cannabis side is the transacting electronically, to your point earlier, of moving digitally money back and forth, just like any bank does. It's all digital. You can't walk into a bank and say, like my 25-year-old daughter tried the other day, "Can I please see my money?" There's no money. It's digital. Put it in, it becomes digital. So we're not doing anything different, except we're making it immediately available through what you would commonly call the float. We're not concerned about that, because the way it works is you put the money in, The larger banks, the tier 1 banks, work off of something that most of you, I'm sure, have never heard of. Most people in the country have never heard of. It's called provisional banking. The money's in the kiosk. At the end of the night, it batches out, and it's counted as if it's in your bank account immediately. It could sit there for a week. Still counts as if it's in your bank until Loomis or Garda comes by, picks it up, and takes it, counts it, collects it, stamps it, and sticks it into the Federal Reserve. We know how to do all that. We just decided it was time to get into this industry and move away from the other industries that we're doing solely because the industry needed it. What rules you put together for collecting the tax, if you decided you wanted the revenue every day or once a week, we can move that digitally into your account right away.
I guess my point, and if you don't, and I'll leave it at this. I guess my point is that you've got money going into the system. You're able to spend it to all your vendors and all of that. But at the end of the day, your system will then could then spit out a check that presumably someone could take to a bank in cash.
Absolutely.
And then you're right back into the cash situation because that person doesn't have a place to bank it.
Right. But what happens is that the people that are in the ecosphere, in your system, are all paying each other in a round-robin effect, debit, credit, okay? At some point, I have to go pay the attorney who's not in the system, so I'm going to ACH that to her bank account, but that's my money that went to her, not the cannabis stores. He cashed his credit in for me to send that money to her. So there's no MRB issues with where did that money come from, so she'll lose her account because she's not loading cash into her bank account. She's just getting an ACH digitally. Different rules. I'd be happy to talk to you when there's more time about it. It works in a different manner.
Love to learn more at some point.
Love to.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to our next panel, which is Kurt Hecker, Senior Vice President of BSA AML Officer of Umapa Bank, Janet Sanchez, Senior Vice President, Community Credit Union of Southern Humboldt, Sean Wellborn, CEO of Community Credit Union of Southern Humboldt, and Bruce Pearson, Marijuana Compliance Attorney, SW&M Attorneys at Law. Before we do that, I know we have someone from my district. Is Adam Wolf still here? I'm going to give him 90 seconds to speak, if he'd like to speak from the back mic as they compile